Ladies and gentlemen, we will have a new champion. That's right. Boston, down 10 early, had a big second half and wins going away, routing Milwaukee in the end, 109-81. So the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks are out. They fall in Game 7 on the road in Boston. Grant Williams did not lead the Celtics in scoring in any game this year, led them in Game 7, 27 points, made 7 threes. He made 7 threes. Milwaukee as a team from 3, 4 for 33. Yikes. There you go. So Boston against Miami to represent the East, and Milwaukee is done. All right, there he is, Avery Johnson, our world champion, former NBA Coach of the Year, jump support. I see you shaking your head. I was going to ask a question, but here's my first question then. What's with the head shake?
Wow. The Celtics just destroyed Milwaukee from behind the three-point line, as you alluded to, EK. When, Celtics made, 22 threes, Milwaukee only made 4. That's a substantial separation and differential in terms of three-point shooting. So is it the Celtics' unbelievable three-point shooting or the Milwaukee's poor three-point shooting defense? And then who would have ever thought in Game 7, in the biggest game of the Celtics season, after they were in 10th place back early in January in the Eastern Conference when people were questioning the hire of Ime Udoka, now Grant Williams comes out of nowhere and makes, a career high in threes and makes more threes than the Milwaukee Bucks team makes as a team. So what a weird game in a lot of ways. It was the others. We knew Giannis and Tatum, they were going to play well overall, but it's the others. It's smart. It's Grant Williams. It's a big 3 at the end of the third quarter by Derek White. It's just a lot of different things that went on in this game. You got to give credit to the Boston Celtics supporting cast for coming up huge in this Game 7.
I'm glad you brought up Coach Udoka because I thought he was and has been tremendous in the playoffs. When they played Brooklyn, he said, we're going to beat them up, and in the playoffs, they're not going to call these fouls, and we're going to make them blow the whistle every 2 seconds, which they eventually won't do. And they did. They just beat up Kevin Durant, they beat up the Nets, and they swept them. And in this series, you could see, so we're going to wear them down. We're going to knock Giannis around, we're going to wear them down, and we're going to see if the rest of that supporting cast can beat our rest of our supporting cast. I mean, Giannis was tremendous in this series. First player ever to go 40 and 15 as an average or a 4 straight game stretch in the playoffs. It wasn't his fault. The rest of the crew wasn't as good. Is it that simple that Milwaukee didn't have Chris Middleton and the rest of the guys just weren't good enough to beat a deep team like Boston?
Well, EK, not having Chris Middleton was a factor, especially when you get to a Game 7 and you need that third scorer. Holiday still struggled offensively. But the other big factor, and I'm glad you brought up Coach Udoka, the other big factor that a lot of people are not talking about is the last game of the season, Boston, they decided to play their guys because they wanted to get home court. Milwaukee rested their guys. Great decision because this 7 game on Boston's home court in front of Paul Pierce and all of the Patriot players and the fans going crazy. Can you imagine, especially without Middleton, if Milwaukee would have had this game at home instead of in Boston? It could very well be a different story. So give credit to the Celtics. They blew it open, especially in that third quarter. They had 10 assists on 2 turnovers. But Grayson Allen and Wes Matthews, both of these guys were combined probably a -20. Grayson Allen, I think they got an APB report out for him. I don't know where he was.
Look, it was everybody. I mean, look, you can't shoot 4 of 33 from behind the arc in a Game 7 and think that you're going to win. And it felt to me like Milwaukee was just out of gas, right? They gave it everything they had. I can't knock their effort. I mean, it wasn't like Milwaukee didn't do it. Sometimes you look and you go, I would have done. The will was there. The skill wasn't today. It just was as simple as that for me anyway. Let's go one each, spinning it forward. First, the Celtics. They move on, and they now take on Miami. We saw them get physical and beat up Kevin Durant. We We saw them wear down Giannis and say to the rest of the guys, go ahead, let's see you do it. Let's see Pat Connaughton do it for 7 games. Let's see Grayson Allen do it for 7 games. Let's see Drew Holiday and Bobby Portis do it for 7 games, and they couldn't. What's the plan against Miami?
They got to continue to make the three-point shot. Miami, basically, they'll zone you from a defensive standpoint. You saw what they did against Philadelphia. Philadelphia, they were putrid from behind the three-point line.
Because Miami plays good D. Coach, these two teams, I'm not saying they're identical, but there are some similarities. They're deep. They play defense. They got a guy like Jimmy Butler and a guy like, Jason Tatum. I mean, there are similarities here. Who do you give the edge to?
I still give the edge to Miami. But this is another 7-game series. I think this is going to come down to mental and intestinal fortitude. I think this game is going to be a classic 7-game series. I don't think Miami is going to be able to eliminate Jason Tatum from the series the way they basically eliminated James Harden. Basically the way Joel Embiid came up short after he didn't win the MVP. So I think Tatum is still going to play well. It's just what are Miami going to do with the others, the Jaylen Browns, the Grant Williams, those guys, Marcus Smart. How are they going to play with those? Al Horford had a game. Sometimes all you really need is a game. He had a 35-point game, a 30-point game in this series. So there's not going to be no over-physicality playing against the Celtics. The Celtics are physical. This is a series I would pay money to watch.
All right, and then Milwaukee. Is it just as simple as, listen, we won the title last year. We were right there this year without Chris Middleton. Get healthy and run it back. I mean, obviously you want like little tinkers, but other than little tinkers, is it just get healthy and run it back here?
No, I don't think so, EK. I think the big deal here is they didn't re-sign P.J. Tucker. You remember that. So P.J. Tucker now, who won a championship with Milwaukee, is playing in the Eastern Conference Finals with the Miami Heat. I don't think they ever really replaced P.J. Tucker's defense, his three-point corner shooting, his experience. So I think they got to figure out how to replace him. Some of the other guys, Grayson Allen, Connaughton, those guys can't do, especially on the defensive end, what a P.J. Tucker can do. So get Middleton back, but they got to find that next P.J. Tucker.
All right, so you want to get Middleton back and maybe upgrade at the 5th or 6th best player on your team, which again is, we're not talking about major overhaul. There'll be somebody out there they can grab, but get healthy and Milwaukee will run it back and they could be there right here again next year, maybe even going farther. But we will have a new champion in the NBA, and we now have our matchup set in the Eastern Conference. Thank you very much, Coach. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, EK.
And that matchup is the Boston Celtics against the Miami Heat. Now, the Celtics won the season series, but the Heat won the Eastern Conference regular season, so they're going to be at home. And Miami's been okay against Celtics, but I don't know, 3 straight ago, LeBron James, that doesn't really matter to me. This really, to me, is about 2 teams that have some similarities. They will dig in on defense. They are balanced. They don't just have one star like Giannis and then it's sort of everybody else. They have a bunch of different guys who can step up and get you. They'll dig in on D. They're very well coached. This is going to be an exciting series.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.